most entrepreneurs, you have to be risky to be in business. And yeah, you could take calculated risks and things like that. But I found that all of the nursing attributes and traits can be transferable to business. Now, should every nurse be a nurse entrepreneur or start a side hustle? Probably not. However, can they, if they really wanted to? Yes, they can.
Hello, listeners. Welcome to the You Belong in Here podcast. This is a podcast where we explore the intersection of nursing and racism, racial disparities that African Americans face in healthcare, as well as the inequities that African American nurses, doctors, and nurse practitioners face in the workplace. My name is Dr. Tiffany C. Brown, and I am your host. I am a doctoral level nurse practitioner with more than 23 years of practice in the nursing profession. It is my hope that through hearing the personal stories of triumph and resiliency shared through in-depth interviews from nurses, nurse practitioners, doctors, and DEI experts, you will be empowered in your workplace and know that you belong in here. Now, let's get to our show. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of You Belong in Here. I am Dr. Tiffany C. Brown, your host. I am thrilled to introduce you to my guest for today's episode entitled Redefining Nursing, the Entrepreneurial Spirit of a DNP RN. So listen, if you're a nurse and you're considering entrepreneurship, then this is the episode for you. So now let me tell you a bit about my guest. So Dr. Laurent is a personal branding and career strategist for new nurses, consultant, keynote speaker, and entrepreneur. She is passionate about healthy work environments, increasing diversity in nursing, and advocates for nurses to boldly embrace exciting nursing careers and business opportunities. She was appointed to serve on the NAWBO National Board of Directors Next Generation of Women Business Owners Committee for 2024 through 2025 board term. She is a LinkedIn top nursing voice, featured in various nursing publications such as Sigma, AJN, ANA, and even was featured on the Jennifer Hudson Show, Snap, Snap. She is the host of the Nursing Dose with Dr. Farah podcast and author of Nurses Making Money Moves, a nurse's guide to starting a business. Lastly, she recently hosted a fabulous inaugural Nurses Making Money Moves conference in Tampa, Florida. So listen, she is a force to be reckoned with and such a down-to-earth woman. So welcome to my show, Dr. Laurent. I am so glad to have you.
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Brown. It's amazing to be here. So excited to get into this conversation. And thank you for supporting my content. Thank you for supporting the conference and being there and present. It was such an honor to meet you in person.
Yes, I 100% echo your sentiments. Okay. I'm so happy I came across you on LinkedIn, and honestly, you've just been such a blessing to me. And I'm loving everything that you're doing, and I'm supporting all of it. So let's go ahead and get into it because, I always like to start my show with, a genesis, event, which I like to describe as you sharing your journey into nursing, like what made you decide to become a nurse, and then further your education by getting your doctorate in nursing.
Yeah, so that's a great question. So really at the beginning, it started really at a young age. I know a lot of nurses kind of know that they wanted to be a nurse. So for me, just at a young age, I used to play with my dolls, and I used to put all the Band-Aids on them. So I joke like I used up all the Band-Aids in the house. And growing up, my dad was like, "Are you sure you don't want to be a doctor?" And I'm like, "Nah, I think I want to be a nurse." So, fast forward, I went to nursing school in Canada. I knew that nursing is really what I wanted to do. And then when I started watching this particular show called Trauma Life in the ER, that's when I knew. I was like, that's the type of nurse that I want to be. Like, I love the action. The nurses were calm. I was like, that's the nurse I want to be. Like, those are some badass nurses. I was like, that's it. So, Of course, in nursing school, that was about 20 years ago, my clinical instructor was not the nicest. And she's like, "Farah, what type of nurse do you want to be?" I'm like, "I want to be an ER nurse." She's like, "You'll never be an ER nurse. You're too unorganized and you should go into med surg." So of course I was like, wow, like how can this educator crush my dreams? And of course I was like, well, I'm not going to listen to that. And in my head, I was like, watch me, lady. I will be an ER nurse. And I think in true fair fashion, whenever someone tells me no, I'm like, all right, let's turn that no into a yes. So I got into the ER as a nursing student, didn't even write my boards in Canada, and they hired me. And not only did I get one position, I got 2 positions in the ER. So I took the trauma one, and then I left Canada eventually, went to New York City. People thought I was crazy to leave Canada, but I was like, I'm out, y'all. I need a bigger city. So I went to New York City. I loved it there. But again, that journey was not easy at times. You know, there was like some discrimination, some different things happening, but I always loved the ER. I did it for 13 years. And then I knew I wanted to go into education because I promised myself that I wanted to be an educator, not like that last clinical instructor I talked about, who was inspiring, who was fun, and really inspired these nursing students to do whatever it is that they wanted to do. Because I'm sure you remember in nursing school, it was so rigid. And like, I'm like, I had one instructor actually who was really fun. And I'm like, I want to be like her, make nursing education fun. So that if you know anything about me and my brand, and like, I'm all about having fun and infusing that into whatever it is that I do. So had some challenges, took me 2 years, but I got my master's in education and then got 2 positions in education, one at NYU and one at NYU as a clinical educator, and then quickly rose up to some leadership positions, up to director of education and then director of a nursing program and then associate dean. But of course, you know, when we speak out and we advocate for things that are not right, we're not always seen as the favorite. So, you know, in those 3 high leadership positions, I'm not afraid to say, and I always share this, I got let go 3 times, you know, and this is why I strongly believe, which we'll get into, I'm sure later, in really building a personal brand as a nurse, so that you could really pivot to anything it is that you want to do when you have those skills and you have that branding, because no one's going to shut me up. That's just period. That's it. Like, I always will stand in my value and integrity. And if that means I have no job, then so be it, because I cannot be part of the foolishness.
Absolutely.
And that's kind of where, you know, my business was born 3 years ago as a nurse career coach. And now helping other aspiring nurse entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs really build their personal brand and, you know, be visible out there.
Thank you for sharing that. I mean, you're already dropping some nuggets. That's why I love starting from the beginning, you know, like, and even it makes you reflect on what happened and how you, in a sense, overcame it. And almost, just watching this video, I feel the strength ignite even more from that experience, because you're like, oh no, you know, what you're not going to do is have me just be dependent on this. And what's going to happen instead, I don't take no for an answer. Yeah. You know, like my grandmother used to always say that, never, baby, never take no for an answer. Don't let anybody tell you no. And so I respectfully, I don't let people tell me no. I try to figure out how to do it and exceed in it, exceedingly and abundantly. Right. So a research study I read from 2017, speaking about entrepreneurship, it revealed that prevalence of entrepreneur nurses is only about 0.5% to 1% of all nurses globally. Yep. I understand, like 3 years ago, it sounds like you decided to dip into that. How do you personally identify yourself as a nurse entrepreneur?
I'm someone who's always kind of creative and always striving to do more. As nurses, you know how we are. We're always like trying to do the most, right? We're like, let's do it all. So really the story is like, I started my career 3 years ago because I was already doing this without being paid. I was mentoring a lot, coaching a lot. And it was to the point where I was doing it so much that I was like, you know what? I could turn this into a business, right? Because it's really needed in terms of career guidance. But I wasn't just doing career guidance, like doing people's resumes and cover letters and things like that. What I saw was like transformation. Like when these new nurses, and I worked with other nurses, but the majority of my clients that come to me are new graduate nurses, particularly in these bigger cities and bigger states like California, New York, that they say is competitive, right? But the transformation that they go through when they work with me, I realize is more than just a resume, cover letter, and things like that. It's about mindset. It's about instilling confidence in them that they could just do whatever it is that they want. So I see that in myself too. My mindset is I can do whatever it is I want if, like you said, you're focused and you're disciplined to do it and take action. Most people don't take action. So that's really true where true entrepreneurship comes from. I feel that true entrepreneurs, they're, a special kind of person. So they don't like being told no. They don't like to conform. They don't like people telling them what to do. And they like to make their own way, right? So that's kind of like some of the personality traits. And they like to take risks. So most people will be like, no, I'm not doing that. So most entrepreneurs, you have to be risky to be in business. And yeah, you could take calculated risks and things like that. But I found that all of the nursing attributes and traits can be transferable to business. Now, should every nurse be a nurse entrepreneur or start a side hustle? Probably not. However, can they, if they really wanted to? Yes, they can. So I literally just listen to my audience and start building from there. So when I started nurse career coaching and I wrote a book, Nurses Making Money Moves, a nurse's guide to starting a business. I'm going to throw it out there. A lot of nurses started coming to me and they're like, hey, how did you do this nurse career coaching business? Do I have to go to school for it? Do I have to get a certification? And I'm like, no, you don't. These are the steps to get there. So I think it's from people asking me questions, and then I've just been building from there.
Just listening to you, I hear several things. It's something that we as nurses already do. You mentioned in the very beginning that, hey, I realized I was already doing this, or I'm already giving something to someone else for free. And so one thing that I believe us as nurses we have that natural ability to mentor. We have that natural ability to coach. And so why not, right?
Yeah.
Use it to develop your own business. I want to share, I read an article recently about a study about the experience of nurse entrepreneurs and building their careers and business trajectories. In this article, they highlighted something that I kind of found interesting. They found that nurses are still invisible in the field of entrepreneurship. I don't think you are, but they found this. As many people still associate them with healthcare practices in the context of primary care and hospitals. So I view this personally as a potential barrier, and it needs to be broken down within the healthcare system as well as the nursing culture. So I want to know, what are your thoughts? And as a nurse entrepreneur, what unique challenges have you faced and how are you overcoming them?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So obviously, as a nurse, if any nurse wants to venture out to start a side hustle or a business or go into, let's say, start a practice. So a lot of nurse practitioners want to start practices, whether it's telehealth or an actual physical brick and mortar place, right? But guess what? We're not given the educational background. So I've been in a master's program, doctoral program. Nowhere has it really been taught to us the business basics or even financial literacy, right? Even in basic education in high school or going into your bachelor's program, there's not a lot about health literacy, how to build a business, those types of things, which I think the education system is really failing people in general, not even just nurses. So how can we get to that information, right? So literally, you can go get an MBA, but do you have to? No, you don't. And if you think about it, I've studied a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of millionaires, a lot of successful people. If you think about it, the majority of those successful people or those millionaires, a lot of times either drop out of high school or just have a high school education because they knew deep down, they didn't want to work for nobody, right? They want to build their own way and they think differently. They do not conform. So to me, the biggest challenges have been, yes, my traditional nursing school hasn't really taught me much about business, but nursing school does teach you other skills, like I mentioned before, that are transferable. how to be adaptable, communication skills, how to problem solve. All those things go to business, but the mindset is the biggest thing. The entrepreneur mindset. Some people say, can you teach entrepreneurship or can you not? Or are you born an entrepreneur? So I think both ways. I think, yes, people are just naturally born entrepreneurs, like the young kids. Like, I don't know if you know who Gary Vee is, but he's a marketing phenomenon and he has this $1 million marketing agency and he does a lot of social media content. And he says when he was a young kid, he had a lemonade stand, but he didn't sit at the lemonade stand. He got his friends to sit around the lemonade stand and he would go around collecting and he would strategize like what corner was better. So like that's a natural entrepreneur, right? So in terms of nurses, I think the biggest thing is mindset, telling yourself that you can do it. Number two, normalizing making money. So I think society as a whole has like making money not a like good thing. But it's a tool, right? We need it to survive. So I think in nursing, it's even worse because we're taking care of people. It's a calling. And it's like most nurses don't even want to negotiate their salary. And I'm like, what is this? Like we have all these advanced degrees, accolades, certifications. On paper, we should be making like $500,000, right? But we don't want to ask for it. So we need to get away from that mentality. Because everybody needs to eat.
That could be a book. Everybody needs to eat. That could be your next book.
I could go on forever. But that's kind of like, yeah, that's my thinking. Like, I think it's that hunger of like that drive. Like you just want to, be able to create and like have that freedom. A lot of it is that freedom, right? Yeah. And in the beginning, you're not going to have a lot of time. Because you're still going to be working full time as an employee. And I'm working part time too. I'm still working. And don't compare your journey to anyone else because there is no one path to entrepreneurship. It's very different for everybody. But what you can do is start looking at other people and learning from it. But honestly, the biggest thing that has worked for me is yes, you can do your own research. You could read, you could do whatever. But taking action is number one. You're going to fail. You just learn and you continue. And investing in yourself. I'm not talking about like getting another certification you can go take digital marketing or whatever you want, but investing in an actual coach, either a business coach, a mindset coach, a money coach, whatever, because they're going to take you from one place to another a lot faster than you just doing it yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Something you brought up earlier was something we're not taught in school, even outside of the various degrees. Like I read book leading organizations. What if, and I'm just throwing this out there, not necessarily to have an answer for it, but just because it popped in my brain, how do you believe like if there was a course regarding nursing, entrepreneurship,
I'm building it.
Right. That's what I'm saying. I'm like, okay, you're building this now, this is something that could be replicable, right? It could be, you can replicate it. You can launch it. You could put it in schools. I think it will be something that would be a wonderful tool to get while you're in school. Just as much as we're reading books when we're in our master's programs about leading organizations or getting our doctorates about how to lead organizations. What about how to lead yourself in your nursing career, how to lead in entrepreneurship? I think that would be great. So I'm happy to hear that you're working.
Yeah, there's something I'm working on. So I'm actually working also on a personal branding book for nurses, whether it's for your career or for business, right? So that's another thing that we're not really taught. And nurses are horrible at self-promotion.
Right.
Okay. So whether you want to go in business or not, but we're talking about nurse entrepreneurship, I would say there's a couple of skills, but I would say 3 of the biggest skills that nurses would need to advance in their career or in business. Number 1 is communication. Communication is huge. And I think everyone should always strive to improve their communication. I'm still learning ways to better communicate and articulate and things like that. The second thing is like sales and marketing. I don't care if you don't want to be in business, but sales and marketing, is huge, right? It's almost like the psychology of like how you use your communication to like negotiate or persuade people. Like marketing and sales is a huge skill that I think nurses need to learn, especially if you're in business, right? And then third is like the art of connecting with people, which I think nurses already have, right? Like building those relationships, it's huge in your career, in your personal life, and in business. Because if you can connect with people, and I think nurses, like, I would say that's my superpower, is connecting with people. That's the key right there to unlock anything, is literally just building connections with people. But you got to be out there. You got to go outside. You got to meet people.
That is true. I think that nurses, a couple things. I think the nurses are natural connectors. Like we naturally connect with our patients, even if you started off at the bedside or even if you didn't, right? Like,
Right.
I personally start off at the bedside. You have to connect with your patient, and then even as a nurse practitioner, I have to connect with my patient. I want to develop a relationship with my patient pretty quickly, especially someone I don't know. Your background is in ER, trauma. You got to be on it like pretty quick. So I think snagging people, we're natural, in a sense, natural salespeople to a certain aspect. And so, which makes me want to kind of like a nice segue to podcasting, because I know you also have a podcast. And do you believe like that could be a part of your entrepreneurial journey, like starting a podcast, which can help, allow you to amplify your voice and amplify your business and the community? Tell me a little bit more about how that has helped you.
Absolutely. So in the beginning, I just used to go live on LinkedIn. And back in the day, if people don't know, which was about 3 years ago. So like LinkedIn has changed over time, but you actually had to apply to LinkedIn to be able to go live on LinkedIn. So a lot of people think like, oh, I could just press a button on LinkedIn and go live. No, like you actually have to use like a third party platform to stream and all that. So like for me, I am not technical at all, but I used the business coach when I first started, and she was like, Farah, you need to be visible. You need to be seen as a thought leader, and going live on LinkedIn will help you do that. So that's what I started to do. I had no clue what I was doing, but I did it anyway. And then I turned that into a podcast because I was like, I'm going to be efficient, stream to all these platforms, and then I could just turn it into a podcast. So strategically, it serves two purposes. Number one is you network with so many great people. And you're like, hey, I have a podcast. I'd love to invite you on my podcast. And this could be someone that maybe you want to maybe in the future collaborate with in business, or somebody that you really highly looked up to. So for me, it was Dr. Katie Boston Leary. So you met her at the summit in DC, right? I've been following her on LinkedIn for a long time. I even went to DC. She invited me to the Howard Theater premiere of Everybody's Work. And LinkedIn connected us. How powerful. And she invited me. So I told my husband, I'm like, I got to go to this thing. So I was like, please watch the kids because I got to go. So it was one of the biggest decisions I made to be in that room of powerful nursing leaders. When I tell you, like, being in a room, like just like the conference, right? Being in particular rooms will get you opportunities. So that was that. I got her to be on the Nursing Dose with Farah. She came on and I interviewed her. So this is what I'm saying. It's so powerful in the way that you can use it as a networking tool and also to get other people's message, highlight what it is they're doing. And people are grateful for that, because you're also amplifying what they're doing, their business, and then they're grateful to you. And then it's like a win-win, right? And you're seen as a thought leader because you're out there sharing your message, being visible. So it serves so many things and so many different aspects. And you can actually get clients from that because people see you and they're like, hey, like, what do you do? I want to learn more about you. They'll start looking you up on Google. They'll connect a call with you or whatever it is. And it can turn into other collaborations. So this is what I say, like podcasting is powerful. And even if you're not monetizing, which you can eventually, you monetize really in other ways, just not the actual money, but the currency of networking, building trust, all that stuff is so powerful, and building your brand. Yeah.
Absolutely. And Katie, Dr. Katie Leary Bear, if you're listening, I've been trying to get you on my podcast. So we put it out there. I'm going to send you a message again today. And that's another thing. People who, for me, I'm learning, that no one has said no, that they don't want to be on my podcast. But I think that people are just busy. It's just a matter of getting people on the schedule. I want to ask you a question. What is your vision for the future of nursing and entrepreneurship, particularly for nurses of color?
I'm going to just be very clear and bold and blunt about this, right? So for me, in my own personal journey, I've experienced a lot of discrimination, gaslighting, micromanaging, because I'm just going to put it out there. I'm not saying it happens to every Black and brown or, diverse candidate. And this is what I wrote a piece in the American Journal of Nursing about the struggle of diverse candidates getting into leadership position and things like that, right? So number one, not only do we have to work like 3 times as hard to get to where we get to, have these advanced certifications and degrees, and then when we get there, it's a whole nother like ball game. And I'm not saying it doesn't happen to other people, because there's politics the higher you get up in leadership and all that for everybody.
Yeah.
But especially being women and then being diverse women, we get it a little bit extra. So I've met so many different people, and along with my own journey, that we experience a lot more, I'll say, disruptiveness as we're getting up there, almost to the point where we don't want to be in those positions anymore because it's so toxic. Now, this is why a lot of nurses are now choosing entrepreneurship, because they're like, you know what, screw this. I didn't go to school to be disrespected, micromanaged, and whatever. And I just wrote a piece about this in one of my LinkedIn posts. I wrote something about God, and I was like, God has put greatness in me. I don't even care. Like, if my confidence, makes you uncomfortable, or if I speak up and you see it the wrong way, I don't really care, because I'm going to keep doing it. So this is why entrepreneurship gives people, especially, if you're a Black or brown woman, the opportunity to create your own lane and have extra streams of income. I'll never forget this. There was one time, this was in academia, I was the director. They would not let me send certain emails because they wanted to check the email. And I was like, excuse me, I am a whole doctor. Okay. Like, what is this micromanaging about? Like, I was in the ER literally saving people's lives in triage, and you don't even want to let me send an email. Like, this is ridiculous. So I had asked for like a day off or something, and they denied it. And I was like, this is crazy. So I was like, this is my fuel to my fire. Like, I will continue to drive this nurse entrepreneurship. Maybe you're not cut out to be a full nurse entrepreneur because you want, you got kids, you need that steady paycheck. But can you make it? Absolutely. So think about it as freedom, a way to generate your own income, and eventually not having to report to anybody and doing what it is that you want to do. That's it.
Well, thank you for saying that. I mean, like, I was going to get to, because I know we're getting towards the end of our show.
Yeah.
I always like to have a pearls of wisdom, segment at the end, and ask, like, if there's any, you mentioned several nuggets, but I want to.
Yeah, I get fired up.
Is there any other, pearl of wisdom you want to give to other nurses who are considering entrepreneurship and starting their own ventures, or even anyone who may be listening who is considering entrepreneurship for their path as well? If you want to give 1 to 2 more pearls, and then that would be wonderful, even though you gave some great nuggets already.
So number one thing, stop with the fear. I had a lot of fear because I didn't want to go on LinkedIn. I didn't want to put myself out there like, hey, I have a business. I'm a nurse entrepreneur. I'm a nurse career coach. Because in your head, you're like, what is my employer going to think? They're going to think that blah, blah, blah. Well, guess what? This is why I share all the time. They will let you go in the matter of a minute if they don't need you anymore. So stop worrying about what they think and start building your brand so that you can pivot to anything else once they let you go in that minute. Because it happened to me 3 times. They don't care if you have kids. Your kids were in the hospital. Literally, that happened to me. I came back to work. They let me go in the matter of a minute. They were like, oh, so we're restructuring and your position's been affected. And I was like, oh, so like when? They're like, oh, today. So if you think that you can't start today, you're wrong. And you need to start today because you never know what's going to happen. You see what's going on in the job market, right? So build your brand before you have your business. Let's say you don't have clarity about what it is you want to do. Start building your brand, start creating social media content, but start getting clarity, and you can hire a coach. You can reach out to me, hire a business coach or a consultant or somebody that's doing something you want to do, right? So for me, I help coaches and consultants. If you want to do a med spa, telehealth business, follow those people. And then don't just follow nurses in business. Follow other great leaders in business because you need to learn from other industries. But start today is my point. Because if nobody knows about you in business, we talk about the know, trust, and like factor. If no one knows about you, they're not going to know you have a book out. They're not going to know you have a clinic down the street. Like, they're not going to know. So you need to build your personal brand, be visible, and start connecting both online and offline so you could build your brand. So that's the biggest thing. And think about it in terms of service to others. What is the impact you want to make, and take yourself out of it? But it's all about mindset and knowing that it's abundance, right? You have to be open to receive. And then I'm really big on God, and like, if you have a vision that comes to you, you need to act on it. And you don't need to figure out how you're going to do it, but you need to believe and have faith that it's going to happen, but you need to take action. Because I think you mentioned that
faith without works
earlier today or on my podcast, but you said, right? Faith without works is dead. Like, you need to put in the work, and it's not going to be easy. But you need to put in the work, and it will happen. And you just need to start. That's it. That's my thing.
Excellent.
I could talk forever. I love talking about business. I know we're wrapping it up.
Dr. Laurent, how can listeners connect with you or support you, your work as a nurse entrepreneur and podcaster? Tell us where we can find you.
I'm having in-person events. The goal is to have one every quarter. So I'm having mastermind business retreats. We're going to meet in person in Clearwater Beach or the Tampa area. Also, the conference is happening next year in March, International Women's Day weekend, Nurses Making Money Moves Conference. You can look me up on LinkedIn, nursefair.com, or just Google me. And
I'll put links.
In the book.
I'll put links. And the book, name it again, Nurses Making Money Moves by Dr. Farah Laurent.
They can find it on nursefair.com. And then I also wrote a gratitude book, 90 Days of Gratitude. You could find that on Amazon. Just put Dr. Farah Laurent Amazon. It'll pop up.
Perfect. Well, folks, this concludes another episode of You Belong in Here. Thank you, Dr. Laurent. You shining. You are shining. God has so much favor of your life. And thank you for sharing your inspiring transformation and your journey. And girl, all these pearls of wisdom for entrepreneurs and nurse entrepreneurship. I appreciate you so much. And
thank you, Dr. Tiffany Brown. You're doing amazing things. And follow Dr. Tiffany Brown. Thank you so much.
Yes. So thank you all your listeners for tuning in. We hope, again, that this episode reminds you that your presence is necessary. You truly belong in your workplace. You truly belong to become a nurse entrepreneur. And of course, if you found this episode encouraging, inspiring, or empowering, please like it and share with others. You can find my podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and I'll be putting guest information in my show notes. So tune in for our next episode in 2 weeks, where we continue to explore topics in equity in healthcare and equity in the workplace. Thank you so much for joining, everyone, and keep pushing forward.